My girlfriend squeezed my inheritance to fund her project. I found out. Now, I made her return everything. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I've always been a pretty straightforward person. I work hard, value honesty, and try to stay grounded. My dad, who passed away last year, was a big influence on me. He built his business from nothing, and when he died, he left everything to me: the savings, the house, and the business. Losing him was rough, but I thought having my girlfriend of 3 years around would help me get through it. Turns out, she wasn't the person I thought she was. At first, she seemed supportive. She stayed by my side, offered to help with anything I needed, and even said things like, "Your dad would be so proud of you." It felt good to have someone in my corner. But looking back, I realized she was playing a long game. She'd always been charming and persuasive, and I used to think those were great qualities. Now, I see them differently. Not long after my dad passed, she started asking a lot of questions about the inheritance. I didn't think much of it at the time. She asked how much money he'd left me, what the business was worth, and how I planned to manage everything. I gave her general answers, but didn't go into too much detail. I didn't realize then how calculated her interest was. One evening, over dinner, she suggested we combine all our accounts. "It'll make things easier for both of us," she said casually, like she was asking me to pass the salt. I hesitated. "I don't know," I said. "I'd rather keep things separate for now. It's just simpler that way." She looked a little annoyed, but didn't push it further. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. A couple of weeks later, I noticed some strange transactions on our shared account. There were charges for expensive clothes, a designer purse, and payments to someone labeled consultant. I asked her about it, and she brushed it off like it was no big deal. "Oh, I just needed some things, and the consultant is for personal growth stuff. I'm investing in myself so I can be the best version of me for us." That sounded like nonsense, but I didn't want to argue, so I let it go. But then I found a $50,000 transfer to an account I didn't recognize. I confronted her. "Where did this money go?" I asked, holding up the bank statement. She didn't even flinch. "It's my investment account," she said. "I thought it'd be smart to grow the money." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That's not your money. You had no right to take it." "What's the big deal?" she said, rolling her eyes. "It's our money. We're building a life together." "No, it's my inheritance," I said firmly. "And you took it without asking." She crossed her arms and gave me this exasperated look, like I was the one being unreasonable. "You're overreacting. I did this for us." That's when it hit me. She didn't see anything wrong with what she'd done. In her mind, my money was hers to do whatever she wanted with. I didn't want to blow up right then, so I told her I needed some time to think and left it at that. After that, I started paying closer attention to everything she was doing. She began talking about getting involved in my dad's business. "I think it's time I started helping out," she said one morning while I was making coffee. "You can't handle it all on your own." "You don't even know what the business does," I said. She shrugged. "I'll learn. Besides, it's ours now." I didn't even know what to say to that. I ended up reaching out to my lawyer to make sure everything was legally in my name. But I still informed my employees and vendors not to deal with anyone claiming to represent the business unless they had my explicit approval. That turned out to be a good move because, not long after, she tried to set up a meeting with one of my main suppliers. When I found out, I shut it down immediately. "This isn't a game," I told her. "This is my dad's legacy, and I'm not going to let you mess with it." She acted like I was being dramatic. "I'm just trying to help," she said. "You're so ungrateful." Her entitlement wasn't just limited to the business. One day, I came home and found her showing our guest house to a young couple. My aunt, who lived there rent-free, had gone out for groceries and wasn't aware of what was happening. "What are you doing?" I asked, barely keeping my voice steady. "Oh, I was just thinking we could rent out the guest house," she said with a smile. "It'd be a nice extra income." "That's my aunt's home," I said. "She's been living here for years." "She's a grown woman," she replied, still smiling. "She can find her own place." I was furious. "She's staying," I said. "And if you ever try to pull something like this again, you'll be the one looking for a new place to live." To make sure she couldn't mess with my aunt's living situation again, I changed the locks on the guest house and updated her lease to make it legally binding. Girlfriend was pissed, but I didn't care. It wasn't just the big things either. She started making changes around the house without telling me, replacing furniture, ordering expensive appliances, and even booking a luxury vacation, all charged to our shared account. "We deserve this," she said when I confronted her. "You've been so stressed, and I thought it'd be good for us. What I deserve is a partner who doesn't treat me like a wallet." I shot back. To stop her from draining my funds, I set up alerts for every transaction over $100 and flagged our shared account for manual approval on anything large. I also returned the vacation package and most of the stuff she'd bought. She called me controlling and accused me of being stingy, but I didn't care. The final straw came during dinner with her friends. One of them, after a few drinks, jokingly called her a genius for using my inheritance to fund her projects. It was clear they all knew what was going on, and none of them saw anything wrong with it. I kept quiet during the dinner, but I was done. When we got home, I laid everything out. "I know about the $50,000, I said. "And I know about all the other crap you've been pulling." She looked startled for a second, but quickly recovered. "We've already talked about this," she said. "I was just trying to help us." "Stop," I said. "I've spoken to a lawyer, and what you did was fraud. Either you return every penny you took, or I'm pressing charges." She tried to play innocent. "You wouldn't do that to me. We're supposed to be partners. Partners don't steal from each other," I said. "You have 48 hours to fix this. If you don't, I will." Her confidence cracked after that. She managed to return most of the money by selling off some of the stuff she'd bought and liquidating her so-called investments. My lawyer drafted an agreement for her to repay the rest within 6 months. She signed it, but not without plenty of complaints about how unfair I was being. I broke up with her that same day and gave her 30 days to move out. At first, she tried to guilt-trip me, saying I was throwing away everything we'd built together. When that didn't work, she got angry, calling me selfish and accusing me of ruining her life. Her last words to me were, "You'll regret this. No one else will ever put up with you." I just looked at her and said, "If putting up with me means letting someone take advantage of me, I'll be fine." After she moved out, I went through everything she'd left behind to make sure there were no more surprises. I found documents showing she'd tried to open a line of credit in my name, but got denied because she didn't have enough information. It was unsettling, to say the least. I filed a police report to document it, froze my credit, and updated every single password I had. I wasn't taking any chances. Once she was out of my life, I started repairing the damage she'd done. I restructured my finances to make sure no one else could ever access them without my explicit consent. I closed our shared account and moved all my personal and business accounts to a different bank. I also reached out to friends and family to apologize for distancing myself while I was with her. Turns out, most of them had seen through her way before I did. One of my friends said, "We didn't know how to tell you, but we could tell she was using you." Another friend said they'd overheard her complaining about how slow I was to make big moves with my money. Hearing all this after the fact was frustrating, but it also confirmed that I wasn't crazy to think she was manipulative. Rebuilding my life after her betrayal wasn't easy, but it felt good to reclaim control. I poured my energy into my dad's business, which I'd been neglecting while dealing with her antics. I hired more staff, expanded our operations, and even set up a scholarship in my dad's name for aspiring entrepreneurs. It was my way of honoring his legacy while moving forward. Looking back, I realized how much I ignored the red flags because I wanted to believe she was genuine. From the small things like always forgetting her wallet to the bigger things like assuming she had a right to my inheritance, it was all part of a pattern. I learned the hard way that trust should be earned, not given blindly, and that no matter how much you care about someone, you can't ignore who they really are. If there's one thing I've taken away from all this, it's that you have to protect yourself, even from people you think you know. Because at the end of the day, if someone shows you who they are, you'd better believe them. I may have lost time and money, but I gained clarity and the strength to never let anyone take advantage of me again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.